when it comes to Chiron, we see that change, true change or healing comes with this uncomfortable feeling. And I feel like for a lot of 2025, we're going to have to confront like a truth that in order to become stronger, we have to feel weak. In order to learn something, you got to first admit that like you don't know it. That's the energy that I really feel like will be working through Chiron. What's going on, world? It's your boy Gemini Brown here, back with another episode of Nalo Kicking Knowledge. Today, we'll be discussing Mars Retrograde, Chiron, and why those energies will have a major impact on the astrology of 2025. So, let's get into it. Welcome to 2025, y'all. Numerology-wise, it is the influence of the 9. Meaning that we're coming off of an 8-year, which was governed by Saturn. 9 is governed by Mars. And already we are seeing that influence play out. Unfortunately, on New Year's Day during the night, there was a tragic event that transpired in New Orleans. This was a major manifestation of the current Mars retrograde in opposition to Pluto. And it was also amplified by the fact that the moon was conjunct Pluto and opposing Mars at that time as well. Even here in my own area, there was a car that crashed into a restaurant. Luckily, others weren't there, but it just speaks towards how these energies manifest. Do me a favor, hit the like button for me. Subscribe if you're not a subscriber. Share it. Let everyone know Gemini Brown is in the building. All right, if you need a reading, go to my website, GeminiBrown.com. Got tons of creative work. Check it out. So how does that play in towards 2025? Well, the 9 indicates completion of cycles. And also a fun fact, your boy, Gemini Brown here, life path 9. There's many things that it's taught me, and you guys understand it just by being here, bearing witness to my energy play out. 9, as I said before, is about the completion of cycles. So within completion, there is a feeling of fulfillment, aha, putting it all together. Sagittarius, the 9th sign, governed by Jupiter. There's a big picture, there's a big idea that we're seeking to grasp here. So this is a year where things can come together, and the spiritual resonance of this is simply faith. Now, where's Mars's influence here? What is Mars? Mars is aggression. As we've seen, it can be violence, especially when amplified. But it's our will and how we steer that will. We should be steering our will this year towards the completion of things possibly left unfulfilled. If we're all honest, going back to COVID, which was 5 years ago this March, it's very possible that there was a redirection from particular goals. This year is a year to get back in alignment with that. Even if it's not a goal, it can be personal values or just an overall zest and passion for life. Another thing Mars is about. I can tell you as a life path 9 and having this influence of Mars that control over your emotions is one of the masterful ways to guide your will. I like the idea of staying on your square. And Mars wants to protect wherever it is. We really do need to be protective of our energy. And I always laugh when I go on social media and see things like that, because I think we're at a point in the journey where we're acknowledging what things are. And at this point, there's a certain acknowledgement of the cultural norms that have been established. The key thing is go back to 2015. It's not like we're pulling from 2010 being 10 years ago. We're fully conditioned into a particular way of being. So within completing cycles, there's a need to use particular tools, which can be gifts within the collectives or things we're a part of, to really find that fulfillment that we may have been seeking. Okay, so that's the influence I see of Mars and the numerology of the number 9. And then also another thing with that is going along with the idea of your will and how you steer it. That equates to your time and energy and how you spend it. So you want to, there's a humanitarian quality toward the number 9, where I find that when you really are passionate about something, you can approach it from a standpoint of like, the time and energy you give to it is limitless. And that's really the power of the 9. The nodes of the moon are set to switch signs on the 11th. But right now, that energy is amplified from the standpoint that Mars also occupies the same degrees, which will be 1 and 0 of where the nodes have been. So there is an amplification of Mars energy, but how does this play in and benefit us towards the start of the year? Simply, there's really extra energy to devote towards yourself and your goals and rewiring how you go about things. The presence of Mars in Leo is about self-satisfaction, doing things that appease you, and the presence of the North Node in Aries also supports that. But when Mars goes back into Cancer, we can slip into patterns of, let's say, overextending ourselves or misdirected energy because we feel a need to protect, or Mars simply feels out of place in Cancer. But this is the test of the retrograde. Mars will eventually form a trine with Neptune, which amplifies, because it's Neptune, this can amplify our illusions. So I'm letting you know, beware of having misdirected feelings or possibly feeling misled by situations. The way I see it, it all stands back to, did you learn the lesson of the North Node in Aries, which is everything flows a little bit better when you're fully focused on yourself, or rather there's a peace that comes from controlling what you can control, particularly with yourself. So it'll be interesting to note how our focus and feelings switch up as Mars goes into Cancer. Another thing I'll say with that is that there can be, for some, a need to be needed, right? So situations may arise where you feel like, well, I'm needed, and you want to be devoted, but it all comes back to your relationship with yourself. Now, when we bring in Chiron here, Chiron's going to be interesting, because Chiron is going into another part of Aries. Is going to be within the last decade and being influenced by Jupiter, which is here in Gemini. Okay, so the need for truthful living or wise action will continue to present itself, right? And part of that wise action is like believing in yourself. So once again, I say all that to say this: you want to hit the ground running with a self-focus. If you go back and look at the journey you've been on, there can have been misdirections. This is the year to get back to self, to create a foundation for self to thrive on, in the future. When it comes to Chiron, we see that change, true change or healing, comes with this uncomfortable feeling. And I feel like for a lot of 2025, we're going to have to confront like a truth that in order to become stronger, we have to feel weak. In order to learn something, you got to first admit that like you don't know it. That's the energy that I really feel like will be working through Chiron. So I want to go through real quick and just give some advice on how to channel that Chiron energy based on where it's transiting in your chart. Okay, so if Chiron is in your first house, this is the personification of needing more self-projection and self-love. This is a position that's going to need a lot of activity. Your ego will heal through being recognized. And I think it starts with admitting a need for recognition and using the body as a vehicle possibly to garner that. The second house with Chiron here, this really I've seen play out in ways in which, because like I said, Mars could be ruling this for many of you. So the more confident you become within yourself, your abilities, the more your ability to like generate wealth opens up, the more you're living to your values helps you heal. Okay. I've noted personally that those who are, let's say, older, this could be 40 plus, with influences here that really lock into a sense of self are thriving in positions like this. So just if Chiron is transiting here, there needs to be a relentless effort towards honoring one's own self-values. And when we bring in other transits, that could involve boundaries, things of that nature. Third house. Are you confident in your ability to learn new things? Are you actively trying, or are you being comfortable? Let's say this transit is happening for you, but you have a lot of fixed energy. This could represent some complacency, right? Or in other instances, maybe a rough time adopting a new ego. Simply put, you have to go for it. The luck comes here within trying. Chiron here in the fourth house. The healing comes from taking control of this area of life. I've noted that many people, within the Saturn and Capricorn generation, North Node and Capricorn generation, may still be at home. And this is an unconscious wound or a conscious wound. There's a need for more independence. And simply put, taking control of this area of life, confronting your conditioning. So there's an amplified playing out of the themes here. If it's going on in your fifth house, Chiron in your fifth house, you heal through a willingness to show up for your inner child, to express greater creativity, to stand within the spotlight. This could also deal with romance, could involve putting yourself out there more, right? Or being recognized in particular fifth house ways that you weren't before. In the sixth house, this is a big one too that I think plays in the Aries energy, where the focus needs to come with the body, the everyday routine. There's a particular aggression that one has to approach their routine with, right? There's a certain order that's needed. But depending on energies in your chart, you may need to break out of that. It all depends. But like I said, to get the most out of the healing in the sixth house, start with your body, start with your diet, and just overall what you're doing on an everyday basis. Chiron going through your seventh house with your North Node also was here too. So for a lot of people, this is about standing up for yourself, creating the necessary boundaries to have your individuality seen, or you personally feeling more like an individual in regards to your personal relationships. This is big because the South Node is in the first house, okay? But I've told people with this position, you're allowed to kind of be an asshole. However, you have to be responsible for the karma that has on your relationships. So healing here, and I had somebody with this position tell me this too, this year can definitely come with more balance, right? So say you've been committed to that North Node and you've been all about self. Maybe your healing now comes from mending relationships that suffer because of that. So more balance, okay? If Chiron is going through your eighth house, this is the Virgo risings, I think there's a need to start with honesty. Maybe one needs a particular layer of intimacy they've yet to have, right? You also want to keep in mind other transits. So, like, what effect has these energies had on your intimate life? What do you require in order to transform and grow? On another level, this could be about channeling more self confidence and belief in yourself, simply showing up, having a willingness to compete, right? This plays well because what we were talking about, Mars, right? Competition. So there might be a need to embrace all of that, okay? Chiron in the ninth house. This one could also be about acceptance of self in whatever way that be. I could give several examples, right? But it's about acceptance of self. Let's give one example about what you believe in regards to others. I wrote this in a post the other day that, like, I noticed that, like, a lot of other dudes, like, I relate to men greatly, but when it comes to sports betting, I haven't necessarily adopted the same value of it like they have. The growth here always, like, with humans, and depending on what we're talking about, is like, do you have a willingness to grow? Are you or do you have a willingness to share who you are, what you believe, and why that is, right? So in the spirit of Mars in the ninth, there may be a need to defend your beliefs, your sense of self, or double down on how you project that. Chiron in the 10th house. Once again, this is the original house of Saturn, so I'm going to let you guys know. Look at where your Saturn is and look at the state of your 10th house and ask yourself, am I living up to the potentials of these energies? This is one where, like, you're your own worst enemy. There isn't necessarily anything holding you back except your own unwillingness. Really, when it comes down to 10th house, is discipline, right? So there's a need to look at your personal discipline and the effect that has on your 10th house and other areas, okay? Chiron in the 11th. The 11th house is your dreams, your hopes, your dreams. And although this position can make you feel like shit, it can make you, especially in Aries, like, I tried, but, like, it didn't go well. It's literally like the Aaliyah song. If at first you don't succeed, hey, dust yourself up and try again. Dust yourself up and try again. Try. Seriously, that's what it's about. Chiron in the 11th, particularly in Aries, it teaches you about competition, man. And it teaches you about, like, in order to connect with that fifth house, you got to find ways to stand out. So in other ways, Chiron through your 11th could also, in Aries, could also encourage you to adopt some physical changes, right? If it all depends on what your aim is, what you're trying to do. All right. And then we get to Chiron in the 12th. This is about standing up to your shadow self. Now, everyone's shadow is different, so there's not a direct read on this, but it's the shadow is about acceptance, about finding integration for it. So many things I've talked about before in other charts can also pertain to this. What are you hiding from yourself? Are you hiding from yourself particular beliefs about yourself that limit other things? What patterns are affecting other areas of life? What you really want to look for with this is impulsiveness, right? I stated during this video that one thing I learned about is, like, controlling your emotions. So Chiron is going to your 12th, all of that, Mars retrograde, these Pluto aspects, control those emotions, okay? But you also want to, it's Mars, so confidence can come from, like I said, standing up to your shadow self, or just exploring it with openness, exploring your spirituality, getting more physical, things of that nature. If you want to read it, tap in with me. I got personalized readings because break down your North Node, break down your Chiron, whatever you want. Check out the website, GeminiBrown.com. All right, y'all. So it's my episode for today. I hope you guys enjoyed. Till next time. Peace.